Okay, full disclosure, I am hungover as balls this morning, and I swear to God, as soon as any of my neighbours around here see me going out for the evening, they're like, oh look, that bald twat's off down the boozer again. Quick honey, let's schedule a house extension for 7:30 AM tomorrow. Or hey, let's have another conservatory slapped on at the crack of dawn. Anyway, the worst of the banging and the grinding seems to have finally stopped, so I guess your mum's probably gone home. So let's get on with a not very good tech show. Techspert Weekly! So Huawei was a busy bugger this week, and its biggest, most exciting launch was the P50 Pocket Global Edition. This is Huawei's latest foldable smartphone, which sports a compact design like Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 3, so you can actually fit it into your pants without doing a janky John Wayne style walk all day long. You can grab the global version in a blingy white colour or this special premium edition designed by someone from the Netherlands, featuring organically flowing patterns in a stunning gold tone, bringing an element of organic kinetic life. Probably need to smoke a few bowls to actually figure out what any of that spiel means. Yank it open and you'll find a 6.9-inch 120Hz OLED screen squirreled away inside with a cinematic 21:9 design. Meanwhile, the dinky external display can be used to interact with your apps and check notifications on the fly. The Huawei P50 Pocket Global Edition sports some funky new features, including smart sunscreen detection, which does exactly what it says on the tin. It's probably actually perfect for us boozy Brits abroad when we've been smashing back the San Miguel since breakfast and we forget whether we've slapped on the old sunscreen before we pass out in the pool on an airbed. For the camera tech, you've got a 40 megapixel True Chroma sensor and a 32 megapixel ultra spectrum lens to produce some more hyper-realistic results, as well as a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle shooter. The Huawei P50 Pocket specs are rounded off by a Snapdragon 888 chipset and a 4000 mAh battery, and a full unboxing will be hitting Techspert imminently, you lucky buggers. And this week, Huawei also spaffed out the global version of its P50 Pro flagship phone, which isn't nearly as bendy as that P50 Pocket, but it does sport a tasty bit of upgraded camera action. You got a 50 megapixel True Chroma camera complemented by a secondary 40 megapixel monochrome shooter to capture impressive detail in any kind of light. You've also got a 30 megapixel ultra wide angle lens and a dedicated 64 meg telephoto snapper to get some proper up close shots of that hot bird in the park. Whoa, check out the plumage on that. Previously launched with a Kirin chipset, this UK version is powered by a Snapdragon 888, while the near 4400 mAh battery boasts 66 watt wired charging and 50 watt wireless. The P50 Pro also sports a mighty 6.6-inch OLED screen with Quad HD Plus resolution, plus stereo speakers. So your Uncle Spurt's baldy head will look super sharp and shiny, and every golden curse word will sound like harmonious birdsong. Oh, sweet precious water. Unfortunately, as usual, the Huawei P50 Pro does not come rocking a bit of Google services action, as Huawei and the US are still in the middle of that little tiff of theirs. But it's still a premium slab of very sexy hardware through and through, and if you want a full unbox and you want to learn more, well, great news, that video's already in the can. I just need to actually edit the bloody thing before I do my usual Friday night thing of downing enough whiskey to fell a fully grown elephant. Of course, those Huawei blowers may be nice and all, but they're also rather chuffing expensive at over €1,000 a piece. So for us skinty lot, good news. This week, Realme also teased the launch of its latest budget-friendly Realme 9 Pro and Realme 9 Pro Plus phones. And this is actually the first time that Realme will have launched a Pro Plus model of one of its budget blowers. That's highly exciting stuff indeed. We don't actually know much about this pair at all, apart from apparently they'll come packing MediaTek's Dimensity 920 chipset, so they'll be the first phones around these parts to actually sport that bad boy. And that should be very good news indeed, because apparently the Dimensity 920 is rather ruddy good. You've got your 5G modem in there, so full 5G support. It's rather energy efficient. It's a 6nm chipset, and apparently it's very good for your gaming as well. And rumours have it that the standard Realme 9 Pro will come packing a 64 megapixel primary camera sensor, whereas the Pro Plus model will upgrade that to a 50 megapixel superior sensor with optical image stabilization built in. But anyway, they promised they'd be launching the phones within the next few days, so Christ knows what that actually means. Hopefully I'll have more news for you next week and a video of me having a proper funnel with the buggers. And I've got to say, apart from that, it's not exactly looking like a bumper crop of headlines this week as far as tech news goes. Basically, it looks like Nvidia's finally given up its quest to take over ARM after like a year and a half of bugger all action. I mean, I got to admit, it was massive news at the time and everything, but after, the last year and a half of fun times COVID shenanigans, I'd kind of forgotten that was even going to be a thing. And also, ooh, big shock, the Pixel 6a could be launching in May, predicts some guy on Twitter. Not exactly a Nostradamus-sized effort there, given that Google I/O is in May and they do quite often launch hardware at it. I'm pretty sure Mystic Meg could have figured that one out after about 10 pints of sherry. So now that that little bit of excitement's all over, now it's time for the part of the show that's about as enjoyable as a multiple compound fracture. It's viewer comments, innit? Viewer comments! Alright, so one of the things that was brought up last week was the glow-in-the-dark gravestones that you've got over in Iceland there, and Malk and Ragnar both answered this. Cheers, guys. So they said, we do the gravestones lighting during the new year, traditionally done with candles, but lately it's been done with LEDs because they can run a long time on battery or a solar charger. Yeah, makes sense. And candles, I'm guessing, don't hold up particularly well in blizzards and gale storms and such forth. And given there's about 4 actual hours of daylight in Iceland around sort of January time, that's probably a good idea to have some form of lighting. So brilliant, thanks for clearing that up, guys. Just very interesting indeed. Next up, Jim says, my mum likes to watch your thing. Well, your mum has great taste, mate. Brian says, I'm here for the hentai and the waifu pillow set. Sorry, Brian, that's a very different YouTube channel, also with Spurt in the name, admittedly, so I can see where the confusion has arisen? I'm too hungover for this. I've got to admit though, I am really tempted to set up Anime Spurt and then just basically spend all day on my arse on the sofa, just box setting all these series that I've got no hope of watching otherwise. That'd be quite good. Would anyone be interested in watching an Anime Spurt? It'd be great to hear in the comments below. If nothing else, it'll make a change from reviewing endless fucking Motorola phones. And speaking of Motorola blowers, Huawei, who I believe is from Croatia, says, hello Chris, any news on the Motorola Razr 3 or the global launch of the Honor Magic 5? Or Magic V, I forget whether they were going for the whole Roman numerals bollocks. But anyway, yes, the Razr 3 is looking a lot more likely according to recent rumours, which is a relief because obviously there's been a bit of a gap since the second one, which I loved. It's just, you know, the dire battery life they need to sort out. If you're going to use it as your full-time phone, it's got to not be dead by like 2 p.m. As for the Magic V5 whatever, I'd be surprised, to be honest, if it gets an official release outside of China. But you never know, fingers crossed. Next up, Will says, what do you know about the Motorola Frontier? Well, I know that every single time I hear that name, my mind immediately jumps to Fuller's Frontier beer, and then I just sit there really wanting a Fuller's Frontier beer. I haven't really seen too much more about it. What I did see on the whole web whispering side of thing was that it's supposed to be the first smartphone to come packing a 200 megapixel camera. So I'll probably rock a bit of, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, be a proper super premium flagship style thing. Could be a lot of old bollocks, who knows, or it might end up being, the global edition of the Edge X30. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, Cyprian says, hey, what's the movie with aliens? Are you thinking of Aliens, perchance? There's definitely aliens in that, otherwise E.T., but that's just the one alien, right? Unless you count his parents who pop up at the end, whatever. Next up, Otaku Anjuru says, your cat was named from Cyborg Kuru-chan. I remember watching that when I was in grade school, LOL. No, he was actually named after Kuro in Blue Exorcist. He's just sat over there. In fact, he's been a little bit shy today. He didn't want to, come over here and start sticking his butt in my face as he usually does. But yeah, I completely forgot about Cyborg Kuro-chan. That was a proper classic, that was, from back in the day. Robot cats blasting the shit out of each other. You can't go wrong. Next up, Deepak says, after seeing the Exynos versus Snapdragon sustained performance results every year, I think that both are going to suck this year. It's just plain sad. And NR Game and Tech says the Exynos 2200 is more exciting this time since the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 overheats like it was designed to be put in a chunky gaming laptop. Yeah, it is kind of sad. The early word is that the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 heats up like a mofo, and just kind of similar to the 888, I guess. So it's probably going to work best in smartphones with dedicated cooling systems, but I'm going to reserve all judgment until I actually get my hands on a 8 Gen 1 smartphone and give it a proper thorough test and give it a Genshin Impact on the go. That thing, that thing where your temples are throbbing? It's deeply unpleasant. Ugh. Don't drink alcohol, kiddies, bad times. Next up, the Bearded Bobber says, howdy from Glasgow, mate. You're right, I haven't been up Glasgow region for quite some time, actually. I need to get myself back there, stuck up on whiskey and iron brew, obviously. Probably not together in the same glass, although I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in Glasgow that particular cocktail does exist. and it'll doubtlessly be 1 part iron brew to 10 parts whiskey. It'll be called something absolutely terrifying like the Deadly Skull F***er. Next guy, 1975 UK, says, wondering what mid-budget mobile takes best astrophotography. I mean, I gotta say, I do often find myself sprawled on my back on the pavement, and so I take the opportunity to try and do the odd bit of space photography, but gotta say, every single time I do attempt it, doesn't quite appear as it does on all the, the press images that they share on the websites and stuff. I mean, basically, it usually just looks like a whole lot of black, like I've accidentally taken a photo with the phone in my pocket still. I mean, to be honest, mate, if you want nice looking shots of space, just try the NASA website. They're pretty bloody good at it, and they've got, really nice technology, and they're actually in space, so that's a bonus. Next up, Achilles saying, looking like the Godfather with that cat in your lap. I don't know, man. I think today I'm feeling more like Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. Now up top and completely dead behind the eyes. Neil asks, does Uncle Spurt play Wordle? Well, this is the thing, like, everyone was banging on about how great Wordle was, so I went on the Play Store and downloaded Wordle, but of course there's now about 50 versions of Wordle, so I downloaded the wrong one and was just like, what the shit is this? I can't be bothered with any of it. And frankly, my brain, it's tired, it's old. It's a little bit dusty, it's not particularly good at word games these days. Although I have actually taken a break from the Shower with My Dad Simulator 2015 in order to play a different PC game this week, something else that was recommended on a podcast to listen to. And frankly, the name alone sold it to me because it's called Genital Jousting. I'll try and remember to stick like a trailery thing up here so you can sort of see a little bit of what it's all about. But it's basically just like, imagine a game where you're going about your daily business, you're going to work, you're catching the bus, you're going on a date with a fellow co-worker, except that every single person in it is just a massive cock and balls. So the office is just like you and 7 other, massive phalluses just basically smashing your swollen, veiny heads off a keyboard. Yeah, it definitely gets the Uncle Spurt stamp of approval. It's an amusing little diversion at the very least. It's only like 55p on Steam as well, which I think it's at that price all week. So if you act fast, you may be able to snaffle a copy. Next up, Billy says, I like your reviews, although I must admit I also watch just to see how pissed you are and the off chance you might fall over and bang your head. Yeah, cheers, Billy. I mean, to be fair, I get the feeling you've probably described about 90% of my viewership right there. And strap yourself in, kiddies, got some more hot chipset talk on its way. Gonna have to try and seek out a spare pair of pants at this rate. So Jason here, on the subject of the Redmi Note 11 Pro, which hopefully I'll be bringing you a full unboxing of next week, says, a little surprised that they went with that chipset, the Snapdragon 695 in that one, and not the Dimensity 920, a little bit better than the 732G and the old Note 10 Pro. And also, Adnan reckons that the global version of the Redmi Note 11 Pro is a downgrade in specs and design versus the Chinese version. Yeah, haven't had a chance, as I say, to check out the Redmi Note 11 Pro just yet, hopefully next week. Again, going to reserve all judgment about the Snapdragon 695. Hopefully should be able to cope absolutely fine with everything. Certainly the 680 on the bog standard Redmi Note 11 could do everything. The MIUI was nice and smooth, and gaming experience was absolutely fine on Call of Duty Mobile as well. Had it on the very good graphics setting, I think it was, and perfect frame rate. Not really sure why Xiaomi went with Snapdragon instead of the MediaTek Dimensities for the global version. Maybe they were just in short supply, who knows. Next up, Akil says, you were in Malaysia, what were you doing back then? I mean, pretty much the same thing that I'm doing right now, drinking far too much and avoiding real work. So this was way back in like the early 2000s, where I just worked temp jobs for about sort of 6 or 7 months and then went buggering off around Southeast Asia on the cheap, like your typical fresh out of college backpack wanker. Yeah, Malaysia's bloody lovely. I haven't been there for a few years, unfortunately, need to get back again, but so I had a proper tour around back in the early 2000s, and some absolutely cracking islands there. I ended up in this one called Tioman, which was basically just a gorgeous golden beach, and I think I had like 2 little beach hut resort type places. Resort, it was literally just a hut with a couple of beds in it, and it was just absolutely stunning, lovely stuff, really friendly and happy and wonderful. And of course now it's probably heavily developed. There's probably a f***ing Hilton and a Taco Bell and all sorts. Next up, Chris says, please let Samsung be the first of many to downsize their phones, even if it is only a small decrease. Some of my pockets are literally not big enough for most of the current phablets. Yeah, I really hope so, mate, because yeah, like practically the only mini phones you get these days are this stupidly expensive bendy blowers. So yeah, it'd be nice to have some more affordable compact efforts. Almost out of time, so I better make my last couple of comments. Ewan says, thoughts on waiting on buying a Samsung S22 Plus or getting the S21 Ultra on a cut price deal. Well, yeah, I mean, Samsung smartphones are generally well supported over time, so, you know, the S21 Ultra, it's going to keep on getting updates for a while, and I'd say if you see a good deal on that, you know, the only upgrades you're going to get on the S22 series are probably the chipset and the camera tech. The S21 Ultra's already got a good camera and it can deal with anything you chuck at it, so yeah, go for it. Sean says, my parents are from Ireland and I've got a lot of family over there. As a whole, Ireland is expensive and Dublin is expensive to even live in. Bums. Yeah, I'd really love to go over there, but it's just, yeah, it's just the whole price thing. I know I live in London, but Jesus Christ, like £10 a beer just scares the crap out of me. And last comment for the week, Edgar says, funny guy, love your vids, maybe someday I'll subscribe. Cheers, man. Appreciate it. Unfortunately, that's all the time we've got for comments this week, but a massive thanks to everyone who left a comment last week, and try and get through as many of them again next week. Definitely smash your thoughts and theories on life and all that good stuff in the comment section down beneath my stupid bald head. Next week, we've got a bumper crop of bollocks coming your way, including hopefully the Redmi Note 11 Pro at long last. That should hopefully be coming start of next week. I've got a few other bits, including the MacBook Pro 16-inch M1 Max model review. I'll try and actually get that P50 Pro Pocket smartphone unboxing edited as well, so yeah, wish me luck. In the meantime, I'm off to stick a bag of frozen peas on my head and have a bit of a cry, but have yourselves a fan-bloody-tastic weekend, and thanks again for watching this drivel to the very end, and that's about it. Cheers, love you!